by Breanna Stewart. I'm not going to say this was intentionally. Breanna Stewart, before hitting her in the face, did get ball, but this follow through looked nasty. I gotta be honest. This follow through looked nasty. You saw it on the replay, and of course, no challenge from Stephanie White. You knew that was going to happen. Caitlin Clark, not happy with a hard screen from Jonquel Jones, gets up and instantly lets the refs know about it. You need to call that foul. That same ref, quick trigger, called the technical foul on Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is now facing a $1,000 fine from the WNBA after picking up her 6th technical foul this season. I believe 8 technical fouls, you get to...
That is the moment where a 20-point win suddenly stops feeling simple, because Caitlin Clark gets hit, gets up angry, and somehow the loudest whistle is not on the contact. It is on her reaction.
Played a back-to-back, the Indiana Fever, taking care of business at home against the New York Liberty, a 20-point victory. The Indiana Fever cleared out the bench. Raven Johnson comes in. But this game, Kelsey Mitchell doing her thing. Caitlin Clark coming alive in the second half. Caitlin Clark goes from shooting 2 for 11 to finishing the game with 17 points, 7 assists, 5 for 14 from the field. She starts 2 for 11 and hits her next 3, gets to the free throw line. Kelsey Mitchell dropping a 30-piece. Let's get right into it, shall we? Like the video, hype the video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below and subscribe to the channel. That would mean so much to me. 20-point win, back-to-back dubs for the Indiana Fever. Caitlin Clark, 17 points, 7 assists, 2 threes. Fever win by 20 and move into first place in the Eastern Conference.
Now, pause on that number, because it is the part that changes the entire tone of this game. Indiana did not just beat the New York Liberty, they beat them by 20 on the second night of a back-to-back, with Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston both still being managed, and they moved into first place in the Eastern Conference. That is why this game matters. It was not perfect. It was not clean. Clark started cold. The offense looked stuck early, and there were stretches where the Fever looked like they were about to drift right back into the same old habits. But then the second half hit, the pace changed. The ball started moving faster, and suddenly Indiana looked like a team that can actually scare people, but the part that should bother everybody comes later, because buried inside this win is the same argument that keeps following the Fever. When Caitlin Clark is allowed to be the engine, they look dangerous. When the offense turns her into a decoy, they look ordinary. And against the defending champions, that difference was impossible to miss.
The game started out slow. The game started out rough. And the question was, with AB coming back, are we going to... Folks, I said this early this morning. Stephanie White is going to see the game Caitlin Clark just had, see the fans finally being excited, and go back to Aliyah Boston being the hub today. Nothing would make me happier than being wrong about this. Please, Stephanie, prove me wrong. I beg you, Stephanie. I beg you. And about 5 minutes into the game just started, and I'm already tired of watching AB tell Caitlin Clark what to do on offense. Stop this hub. No, stop with the hub nonsense. I don't need to see Aliyah Boston pointing and telling Caitlin Clark what to do. Caitlin Clark knows what to do. Caitlin Clark's IQ, she's got a very, very high basketball IQ, AB. Please, stop telling her what to do. Stephanie White, stop telling AB to tell Caitlin Clark what to do. We could just go back to how it was yesterday, last night. Let Caitlin Clark run the show. Let Caitlin Clark do her thing. Let's play fast. And AB can get in where she fits in. If we're going to run a quick pick and roll, AB come quick pick and roll.
That is the first tension point of the night. Aliyah Boston comes back, and immediately the question becomes whether Indiana is going to use her as a weapon next to Caitlin Clark, or whether they are going to rebuild the entire offense around Boston as the hub and push Clark off the ball again, and that is not an anti-Boston argument. Boston had 15 points and 7 rebounds in limited minutes. She is too talented to be treated like a background piece. But the difference is role. There is a massive gap between Boston being a dominant screen and roll partner, a quick decision maker, a paint pressure player, and Boston standing high with the ball while Caitlin Clark waits for someone else to initiate. That is where Fever fans get frustrated. They watched Clark come off a 45-point, 10-assist explosion. They watched the floor open up when she was controlling tempo. And then, the very next night, early in the game, it looked like Indiana was tempted to slow everything down again, and for a team trying to become real in the playoffs, that cannot be the identity crisis every single night. The best teams know what they are. Indiana keeps showing you two versions of itself. One version is fast, aggressive, spaced, unpredictable, and built around Clark's processing speed. The other version is slower, more scripted, more crowded, and easier to load up against. The scary part for the rest of the league is not that Indiana won this game by 20. The scary part is that they won it by 20 while still arguing with themselves about how they should play.
Nick, how do you go from a 45-point game as the offensive engine to an off-ball decoy in 24 hours? It was wild, folks. It was wild. But hey, the second half rolls around. We got a little bit more of what we want. The second half rolls around. We got a little bit more of that fast-paced, exciting, hitting threes, getting to the rack, getting to the line that we come for. Let's take a look at the box score. Like I said, the game started out slow. The Indiana Fever 28-22. They were down by as much as 13 points, I believe, in the first quarter. And then they start rallying back. The second quarter, 23-21. Third quarter, an explosion. 30-point explosion from the Indiana Fever in the third quarter. The New York Liberty, I'm assuming the New York Liberty and the Indiana Fever swapped coaches in the third quarter because only teams with Stephanie White as the head coach scored 12 points in a quarter. And miraculously, the New York Liberty managed to only score 12 points in the third quarter. Now, I say with the, if you have Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Marina Ioannis all on your team, you should never be scoring 12 points in a quarter, but hey.
This is where the game flipped from uncomfortable to revealing. Indiana was down by as much as 13 in the first quarter. The first half had all the signs of a letdown spot, back-to-back legs, Liberty talent everywhere, Clark missing early shots, turnovers creeping in, and the offense not always flowing. Then the third quarter happened. Indiana put up 30. New York scored 12. That is not just a random hot stretch. That is a statement quarter against a Liberty roster with Sabrina Ionescu, Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, and enough firepower to punish almost any mistake. Indiana controlled the tempo, forced mistakes, and turned a messy first half into a game the Liberty could not get back, and this is where the Clark conversation becomes bigger than her box score. She finished with 17 points and 7 assists, but she also had 7 turnovers and started 2 for 11. So, if someone wants to say she did not have a perfect game, fine. That is true, but the deeper question is why Indiana still looks more alive when she is on the floor, even when her shot is not falling. That is the part box score debates usually miss. Clark changes the geometry of the game. Defenses lean toward her before she even touches the ball. Transition windows appear earlier because everyone knows she can throw the pass before the camera catches it. Teammates run harder because they know the ball might actually arrive, that is impact. And when you can have that kind of impact on a night where you start cold, that is exactly why the Fever cannot afford to treat her like just another guard in the system.
Turnovers. With Caitlin Clark on the floor, they forced a lot of turnovers. The narrative that she doesn't play defense, it's not real. It's fugazi. It's made up, make-believe, not what actually is going on. Caitlin Clark plays very solid team defense, and as a one-on-one defender, she is not bad at all. So we really got to stop that narrative. Take a look at the box score. Kelsey Mitchell, 33 points for Money Mitch. Oh, I said I wouldn't say that anymore. I said it. It rolled off the tongue. I got to roll with it. 33 points. 10 for 14 from the field, 9 for 13 from the free throw line for Kelsey Mitchell. 1 assist, 1 steal. That 1 assist did go to Caitlin Clark. It did go to Caitlin Clark, that 1 assist. Caitlin Clark, 17 points, rough first half, but she picked it up late in the game. 5 for 14 from the field, 2 for 8 from the three-point line. She was 0 for 6 from 3 at one point. She was 2 for 11. Second half rolls around, fourth quarter rolls around. Caitlin Clark starts to find her groove. 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 7 turnovers.
This is the fair version of the breakdown. Kelsey Mitchell was unbelievable. 33 points on 10 for 14 shooting is not a side note. That is a takeover. Mitchell gave Indiana the scoring punch they needed while Clark was trying to find her rhythm. And without that, this game probably looks completely different, but the interesting detail is the one assist. Mitchell's one assist went to Clark. That matters because it shows what Indiana can look like when the ball is not just sticking with one player. Mitchell can hunt shots, Clark can create, Boston can finish. The problem is not having multiple weapons. The problem is when those weapons start taking turns instead of playing off each other. Clark's line is also strange in the way only her lines can be strange. 17 points, 7 assists, 7 turnovers, 5 for 14 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3. On paper, that is uneven. In the flow of the game, it felt bigger because she kept pressing the defense, kept forcing decisions, and eventually found enough rhythm late to help close the door. That is what Indiana has to learn from this. A cold Clark game still bends the floor. A hot Mitchell game can carry the scoring. A productive Boston game can punish the interior. But those three things only become championship level if they happen inside the same offensive idea. Not three separate agendas, not three players taking turns. One system, with Clark setting the pace, Mitchell attacking tilted defenses, and Boston punishing the openings. That is the version that should terrify people. And for a few stretches against New York, you could see it.
Few early turnovers, not the best. I do think she started out the game with a turnover. I think she was kind of excited to play with Aliyah Boston and tried to force her a couple too many times. But after the game she had last night, I'm not going to pitch a fit. Monique Billings, 17 minutes, 4 points, 6 rebounds for Monique Billings. Monique Billings blew a couple wide open layup opportunities, got blocked another time, served it on a silver platter for Hanju or Hansu or swatted that shit. Monique Billings. We got another 6 to 7 games before we see another good Monique Billings game. It seems every 8 to 9 games Monique Billings has a good game. We had a good game last game, so today back to regularly scheduled pro. Lexi Hull had a career night tonight, folks. Lexi Hull, a career night, 8 points for Lexi Hull. Aliyah Boston had 15 points, 7 rebounds on a minutes restriction for AB. I mean, AB and Caitlin Clark both on minutes restriction, and this team won by 20 points. You know what I mean? AB and CC both on minutes restriction, and this team won by 20 points. Hopefully, moving forward, we can see Caitlin Clark play 30 minutes a game. I'm ready to see Caitlin Clark back playing 30 minutes a game. We look at the bench. The bench came alive in the second half as well. Sophie Cunningham, 11 points. Ty Harris, 11 points. Maisha Allen back in the fold, back in the lineup after one of her family members passed away. Michaela Timpson, 23 minutes, only 2 points, 5 rebounds, but you feel the impact. That's what I would say the difference is between Timpson and Billings. You feel the impact when Timpson's on the floor. You feel her athleticism automatically. You feel her activity automatically. You feel her hustle automatically.
Now the bench piece matters more than it might seem, because Indiana has spent so much of this season looking like a team that needed everything from the starters just to survive. In this game, they got real minutes from the group behind them. Sophie Cunningham gave them 11. Ty Harris gave them 11. Maisha Hines-Allen was back in the fold. Michaela Timpson only scored 2 points, but the point being made here is about activity, energy, and athleticism. The kind of minutes that do not always look loud in the box score, but change possessions because a player is flying around, contesting, cutting, rebounding, and giving the team a different physical feel. That is another reason this win has layers. Indiana did not win because Clark scored 40. They did not win because Boston played 35 minutes. They did not win because Mitchell had to play hero ball for the entire night. They won because the team started to look fuller, more versatile, more able to absorb a rough stretch and keep coming, but that also raises the standard. If the Fever can beat the Liberty by 20 with Clark and Boston both managed, then the excuse phase gets shorter. The ceiling is obvious. Now the question becomes whether the coaching staff can choose the right version of this roster often enough, and that is why every substitution, every offensive alignment, every decision about who starts next to Clark starts getting examined, because this is not a rebuilding team anymore. Not if they are sitting first in the East. Not if they can hit New York with a 30-2 third quarter. Not if their best player can start cold and still reshape the game. At some point, they are figuring it out, turns into, they better not waste this.
What a move from Caitlin Clark. Oh, let's get that muted. We got Caitlin Clark going up. I think this is when we get the spin move. Takes contact. Yep, goes left. Woo, spin. Takes it to the rack. Absorbs contact. And one. John Cole Jones fouls. John Cole Jones and Michaela Timpson help her up. And then we got Caitlin Clark. Oh, this pass was disgusting. This pass was absolutely filthy. Absolute filth. Look at this. Sophie to Cece. Cece. Ziong. Right to A. I mean, this was disgusting. But this is why you need to just if you get a rebound, stop trying to do things. Give it to Caitlin Clark. If you get a rebound, stop trying to do things and make your own plays. Give it to Caitlin Clark, and she'll make the right play. She's seeing it develop before you even turn around. And
this pass is the whole argument in one play. Sophie Cunningham gets the rebound, immediately gives it to Caitlin Clark, and Clark sees the floor before the defense is ready. That is the difference between running offense and creating advantage. Plenty of teams can bring the ball up, call a set, point people into spots, and try to manufacture a look. Clark can turn a rebound into a layup before half the floor has matched up. That is why the hub debate becomes so heated. It is not because fans want Boston uninvolved. It is because Clark's greatest gift is speed of recognition. She processes the game early. If the team slows the possession down, waits for everyone to get arranged, then asks Clark to become a spacer while someone else surveys, you are taking the best part of her game and putting it on a leash. And again, Boston is not the problem in that clip. Boston is the reward. She runs, she presents a target, she finishes. That is exactly how this pairing should work. Clark creates the advantage early. Boston beats her defender to space. The ball arrives on time, and the defense never gets to reset. That is not complicated basketball. It is just decisive basketball. The problem is that Indiana sometimes makes the simple thing look like a philosophical crisis.
The rebound, didn't try to do anything. Where's CC? There she is. There's AB. Easy money. Again, this team is best when it's quick decisions. Quick decision. Not AB pounding it in the paint, sitting at the top of the key, waiting for things to develop. No. Not Kelsey Mitchell pounding the rock, waiting to get an open. No, it's when we pass it quick, Kelsey Mitchell gets the ball, decisive with it, makes a move. AB gets in the paint, decisive with it, turn, makes a move. Caitlin Clark crosses half court, decisive with it, makes a pass. Decisive with it, step back. Decisive with it, takes it to the rack. That's the type of offense we need. Quick, catch the defense off guard, and
this is the word that should define the Fever offense, decisive. When Kelsey Mitchell catches and attacks quickly, she is dangerous. When Aliyah Boston catches and makes a fast read, she is dangerous. When Caitlin Clark crosses half court and the floor is spaced, the whole possession becomes dangerous before the defense is settled. The opposite is when the ball gets held, when players stare at the floor, when the action slows down, and the defense gets to load up. That is when Indiana starts looking easier to guard than it should. And with the amount of talent on this roster, easy to guard should almost never happen. The Liberty game gave Indiana a blueprint: quick decisions, early offense, the ball in Clark's hands with pace. Mitchell attacking in rhythm instead of trying to create something out of nothing late in the clock. Boston getting touches that flow out of pressure, not touches that freeze the floor. This is where Stephanie White's job gets both easier and harder. Easier because the answer is showing up on film. Harder because now everybody can see it. When the Fever play fast and connected, they can run the defending champs out of a quarter. When they overmanage the offense, they invite the same questions right back into the room, and the dangerous thing about winning is that it removes excuses. You cannot hide behind development when the team is proving it can win big games right now.
The one assist I was telling you about, Kelsey Mitchell, behind the head to Caitlin Clark for 3. CC to Kelsey. Kelsey drives, CCC, nice pass, boom, step back, sidestep, give me that, bang. Nice, very nice, very nice, very nice, very nice.
Kelsey to Caitlin 3 matters because it cuts against one of the laziest ways people talk about this team. The debate often gets framed like it has to be Clark versus Mitchell, or Clark versus Boston, or Clark versus the system. But the best version of Indiana is not one star swallowing the others. It is the stars amplifying each other, Mitchell driving, drawing attention, finding Clark. Clark relocating, creating space, stepping into the shot. That is real offensive synergy. That is what makes defenses panic, because now they cannot just load up on one action and assume the possession is solved. When Mitchell is only hunting her own shot, defenses can predict the possession. When Boston is only being used as a stationary hub, defenses can sit and help. When Clark is only a decoy, defenses get the benefit of her gravity without paying the full price for it, but when all three are connected, every choice hurts. And that is the point Indiana should take from this game. The Fever do not need to choose between making Mitchell dangerous, making Boston important, and making Clark the engine. They need to build the offense so those things happen together. That sounds obvious, but it has not always looked obvious on the floor. Against New York, especially in the second half, the glimpse was there. That is why this win feels bigger than one regular season result.
Poked in the eye by Breanna Stewart. I'm not going to say this was intentionally. Breanna Stewart, before hitting her in the face, did get ball, but this follow through looked nasty. I gotta be honest. This follow through looked nasty. You saw it on the replay, and of course, no challenge.
Now, this is where the game turns from basketball conversation into league conversation. Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye by Breanna Stewart. The commentary here is careful, and that matters. Nobody has to claim intent to say the follow-through looked rough, nobody has to turn Stewart into a villain to ask why the officials and the Fever bench did not respond more forcefully in the moment. That is the line. In a physical league, accidental contact happens. Stars get hit, hands come down, bodies collide. But when the most watched player in the league takes contact to the face, and the replay makes people wince, fans are going to ask why there is not a stronger reaction from the people responsible for protecting players. And this is where Stephanie White keeps getting pulled back into the controversy, because Clark has had multiple games where the discussion afterward was not just her shooting, her passing, or the scoreboard. It was whether enough was done when things got physical around her. That does not mean every contact deserves a suspension. It does not mean every opponent is hunting her. But it does mean the Fever cannot look passive when their franchise player is the one taking the hit. If the coach will argue for one player, challenge for one player, and fight for one player, fans expect that same urgency for Clark. The scoreboard said Indiana won by 20. The reaction said there is still an unresolved trust issue.
You knew that was going to happen. Caitlin Clark, not happy with a hard screen from Jonquel Jones, gets up and instantly lets the refs know about it. You need to call that foul. That same ref, quick trigger, called the technical foul on Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is now facing a $1,000 fine from the WNBA after picking up her 6th technical foul this season. I believe 8 technical fouls, you get suspended for a game. Caitlin Clark is currently at 6, but she was not happy with that play. Oh, there's Twitchy, just twitching. Caitlin Clark, not happy with it. Gets hit, gets up, looks at the ref, claps at him.
And then comes the technical. Clark gets hit by the screen from Jonquel Jones, pops up, claps at the official, and gets hit with another technical. According to the breakdown, that puts her at 6 technical fouls on the season, with a possible fine attached and a suspension threshold looming if the number keeps climbing. Now, the fair part is this. Officials do not like being shown up. Players know that. Clark knows that when you clap at a referee, you are inviting the whistle. That is the reality of how these games are officiated, but the reason fans explode over moments like this is because they feel the sequence is backwards. They feel the physical play gets tolerated first, then the emotional reaction gets punished immediately. Contact, no call, frustration, instant technical. And even if the technical is technically explainable, the optics are terrible. That is why this keeps becoming bigger than one whistle. It feeds the belief that Clark is allowed to be bumped, grabbed, screened hard, poked, knocked down, or tested physically. But the moment she reacts like a star who is tired of it, the league suddenly finds the rulebook. That is a dangerous perception for the WNBA, because perception becomes the story when the calls are inconsistent. And with Clark, every inconsistency is magnified because more people are watching. That is not unfair pressure. That is the price of attention. The league wanted bigger audiences. Bigger audiences notice more. So, this game gives you the contradiction in one night. Indiana looks like a rising contender. Clark looks like the engine, even without a perfect shooting night. Music, Mitchell looks like an elite scoring weapon. Boston returns and contributes. The Fever beat the Liberty by 20. And still, the clip everybody argues about is the one where Clark gets punished for reacting. That is why this win did not end the controversy. It sharpened it further.
But, all in all, the first half was a lot of our concerns kind of being proven true. Like, damn, AB's back. We're going to go to this hub. It's going to be slow. It's not going to be as fast-paced. Dude, we saw that yesterday with Timpson and Billings, Kelsey, Mitchell, Caitlin Clark as a starting lineup. We felt the pace automatically off the rip. One thing I will say, can we get Lexi Hull out of the starting lineup? Out of the starting lineup. Let's get Sophie Cunningham in the starting lineup. It will open up the floor because defenders won't feel inclined to cheat off Lexi in the corner to help an AB, to help on Monique Billings, to help on a Kelsey Mitchell, to help on a driving Caitlin Clark. If Sophie Cunningham's in the corner, they got to stick to her because she'll make you pay if you cheat too much. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like the video, hype the video, subscribe to the channel. That means so much to me.
This final point is more important than it sounds, because lineup choices are not just about who is better in a vacuum. They are about what the defense is willing to ignore. If Lexi Hull is in the corner, and the defense feels comfortable cheating off her, that affects Clark's drives. It affects Boston's post touches. It affects Mitchell's lanes. It shrinks the floor, but if Sophie Cunningham is in that same corner, the defense has to think twice, because leaving a shooter changes the math of the possession. That is why the starting lineup question matters. It is not personal. It is structural. Around Caitlin Clark, spacing is not optional. It is oxygen. The more shooting you put around her, the more every defensive mistake becomes expensive. The more non-shooting or hesitant spacing you put around her, the easier it becomes to crowd the lane, load up early, and make every possession feel harder than it needs to be. And now we finally get to the real answer this game gave us. The Fever are not dangerous because they beat the Liberty once. They are dangerous because the formula is sitting right there. And even on an imperfect night, it produced a 20-point win. Let Clark set the tempo. Let Mitchell attack defenses that are already tilted. Let Boston finish fast instead of slowing the floor. Keep shooters around the action. Stop treating pace like a luxury. And when Clark takes contact, protect her like the franchise player she is. That is the version of Indiana that can make a real run. Not the version stuck between two identities. Not the version where Clark disappears for stretches while someone else points traffic. Not the version where every game becomes a debate about minutes, usage, challenges, and whether the staff is overthinking the obvious, because first place in the Eastern Conference changes the standard. It means the Fever are no longer just a fun story. They are a target. Every team now has to prepare for them like they matter. Every mistake gets louder. Every coaching decision gets heavier. Every whistle around Clark gets dissected, and that is exactly why this Liberty win is so fascinating. It gave both sides of the argument something to use. If you support Stephanie White, you can say the Fever won by 20. The bench contributed, Boston returned, Mitchell exploded, and the team defended well enough to hold New York to 12 in the third quarter. That is a real case, but if you are skeptical, you can say the first half still showed the same offensive confusion. Clark still had to fight through a role that did not always maximize her. The challenge question appeared again after the eye contact, and the technical made it feel like the league was quicker to punish her reaction than address what caused it. Both things can be true. Indiana can be improving, and Indiana can still be leaving too much on the table. Stephanie White can deserve credit for the win and still deserve pressure over how the offense looks when Clark is not fully unleashed. Kelsey Mitchell can be celebrated for a brilliant night, and the team can still need Clark as the primary engine. Aliyah Boston can be essential, and the Fever can still need to stop using her in ways that slow down the very thing that makes the team special. That is what separates a real contender from a team that just has talent. Real contenders choose an identity. They know what their best advantage is, and they build everything around it. For Indiana, that advantage is pace, spacing, and Caitlin Clark's brain with the ball in her hands. So now the question is not whether the Fever can beat elite teams. They just beat New York by 20. The question is whether they are finally willing to become the team that this game showed they can be. Was this the night Indiana found the formula, or was it another warning that they are still fighting their own best player's superpower? Drop your take in the comments. Like the video, and subscribe if you want the full breakdown every time this Fever story takes another turn.